ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime Doubleheader. We had two tonight. NFC North family business to kick us off. Bears at Vikings. And we had the Raiders hosting the Falcons 30 minutes later to finish us off. That was as dookie as we thought it was going to be. Don't you hate when a plan that you never wanted to see take place comes together? We told ourselves, hey, this shit is going to be a bad doubleheader. We don't want to see either one of these games. And we were right. But look, you can't win them all. You can't win them all, kid. We had been on a nice streak here of late. In the last three now, I guess there were two tonight, one last night. Primetime games, not good. But the 6 before it had been excellent. So what are you going to do, right? We were due for one of these little mini streaks of funk. So you take it on the chin and you keep it pushing. Vikings did what they were supposed to do. In as anticlimactic a game as humanly possible, they dispose and dispatch of the Chicago Bears 30-12. You know, what gets lost in all of this is the greatness of those winter Warrior jerseys. They deserve so much better than tonight. They really, truly did. They deserve a better showing. They deserved a better floor, stage, etc. Those are crispy. And they deserved so much better. This game was supposed to be worth so much more. And it wasn't. It was ho-humish. And the performance on the field was ho-humish. But the jerseys weren't. They weren't. So at least we do have that. The Winter Warriors, they held up their end of the bargain. They were as advertised. Unfortunately, the game that they were in, not so much. The Bears are a lost cause. And I'd be lying to you if I said there isn't a small part of my heart that smiles every time someone says, you know, they haven't been the same since they lost that Commanders game. And I just look at the football gods and I give them that wink and a smile, and he just goes, nothing needs to be said. In the nightcap, if you want to call it that, it doesn't get much worse than that. We haven't seen a game of that ineptitude. Man, you got to go back to the 2022. You got to go back to the 2022 Broncos for that type of ineptitude we watched tonight. Remember, they force-fed us Russell Wilson in year one of the Broncos like 9 times on primetime. I kid. It was like the Broncos were on 5 times in the first 7 weeks of the 2022 season, and they were awful under Nathaniel Hackett. Some of the worst football we've ever been for. Like, if you want to torture someone, strap them down to a chair, tape open their eyelids, and turn on 2022 Denver Broncos football. I've never seen a man make it out alive. This was that-esque tonight. You want to torture somebody? I don't know how the hell you're a Raiders fan and you're watching this shit. You know, God bless the Raider fan. Shit, God bless the Falcons fan. God bless my sister. I feel for her. Like Shaka Khan, I feel for you. Your team is doo-doo. She knows it, though. She tells me, I'm over it. We stink. And I will say this. If you're a Falcons fan, take solace in knowing that as bad as it looked tonight, one, you won, which was the most important thing. Two, it only takes one to get you jump started. If you're a shooter and you're going through this nasty funk where the ball just isn't going in the hoop and you're struggling and you can't get out of it, the only thing that's going to stop you from struggling is seeing the ball go through the hoop. And slowly but surely, you'll regain your confidence. But it needs to go through the hoop first for you to start believing that it's going to go through the hoop. Man, was this bad. It was ugly. But still effective. Mission accomplished. And if you're the Raiders, that, my friends, is the definition of running the play. Probably a little too close for comfort if you're a Raiders fan. Obviously, you did not come this far to see your chance at the number one pick go up in smoke via a Desmond Ridder revenge game. That is not what you signed up for. You have signed up for 14 weeks of pure hell, and you did not sign up for this, for the Desmond Ridder revenge game to be the bane of your existence this season. It was this close to happening. You found an opponent that was garbage enough to almost allow you to steal one, but you didn't. You walked all the way up to that line as close as you could go without crossing it. That's how you run the play. I know it plays with your heart valve if you're a Raiders fan. Giants fans suffered this same type of fate last week when they played the Saints. But that's how you run the play. That's how you run the play. If you don't want your coach getting fired, if you don't want heads to roll, you got to be competitive while you're losing. That's the only way to do it. You keep getting your ass kicked week after week. Now we're going to think, oh, maybe the team quit on him. Maybe we need to go find a new coach. This isn't acceptable. You can't keep getting your brains bashed in. And the one thing I can say is Antonio Pierce has these boys fighting. It ain't pretty. And boy, they lack talent. But they damn sure ain't quit on their coach. And that's all they need. That's all you need to know, right? He'll be back next year. Raheem Morris, I tell you, it's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. Matter of fact, we'll come back to the Falcons, and we'll come back to that game. Let's start with the first game of the night. NFC North family business. If these two teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. You already know what it is. Vikings came into the game at 11-2, and what got to be winners of. I think their last loss was at 5-2. So I think winners of 5 straight, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong if you're a Vikings fan out there. So winners of 6 straight, excuse me. Looking to make it 7. And the significance of this game, if you're a Vikings fan, is that you looked up, and I told you, if you're a Vikings fan and you've been watching the program here of late, I told you the Lions were going to lose on Sunday to the Buffalo Bills. And as far as it seemed like you might have been away to win in this division, because even though you were only a game back, it felt like a lot more because of how good Detroit had been. But the reality of the situation was you were only a game back. And yes, they do own the season series as of now because they beat you earlier this season in Minnesota. But you still have them final game of the season with a chance to win the division if you can just find a way to be tied with them going into that game. You have to finish a game better than them. I would imagine that they own the tiebreaker if the two teams were to finish tied on the year. My guess would be virtue of conference record or games against similar opponents. I think it's probably going to be all the same, right? They played a different schedule because they were a first place team. But the biggest thing is they've only got one NFC loss, and that's to Tampa Bay. Their other loss obviously came against Buffalo. So if we get past the division, if you guys split the season series, you both go 5-1 in the division, having lost to each other, then your losses, unfortunately, have come within the conference. You lost to the Rams, and your first loss came against who? Don't remember who the first loss of the season came against. Oh yeah, this Lions team, right? So both conference losses. There's one loss in the conference. So you need to finish one game better than them because you wouldn't win a tiebreaker if everything holds true that is happening right now. If the two teams don't lose another game until they meet each other in week 18, they'd have a better conference mark than you. So you need to finish one game better than them. So the table is set, right? Just keep winning. You win out, you win the division, and you'll have a chance at the number 1 seed. Now, being that both of your losses have come to conference teams, same could be said for Philadelphia. I don't know how the tiebreaker would work there with you two. That'd be interesting to see how that would shake out. But 48 hours ago, it didn't feel plausible that you would win this division. Didn't feel plausible. Felt like a good story. Wow, look at Sam Darnold. Look at Sam go. You've been here before. You were here with Case Keenum. You had no intentions of re-signing Case Keenum after the season he had back in 2017. It's literally the same script from 2017. And I don't like it because that same year that you did that shit, the Eagles did the same shit and they won the Super Bowl. So I don't like this script at all because it's kind of shaping up the exact same way. And I don't like it because I don't trust you to do what Detroit would have been able to do had they been healthy, which is beat Philadelphia if it comes to that. You didn't get it done in 17. I don't see you getting it done this year. However, the Lions are banged up, and that is an understatement. They are not the same team that they were 48 hours ago. They're not the same team they were 2 weeks ago. Hell, we've already known that they weren't the same team that they were a month ago, right? The injuries just have continued to mount, and they've continued to overcome these injuries week after week after week. But at some point, there's a line, right, that you cross when you have injuries and they start to catch up to you. And I think the Lions are at that line as we speak. And if you're the Vikings, you've got an opening that didn't exist 48 hours ago. You have to seize that opening now. And tonight, It wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing game, but you did what you needed to do. You took care of business. And the thing that I loved about what you did tonight was you didn't play with your food, right? The Bears, they've shown us here of late, they lack any true resistance. You know, they've called it a season. They're done. All right. There's enough veterans on that team that guys aren't willing to continue to fight with nothing on the line. Like once you get them to a certain point in the game when the score starts to get away from them, they break. You saw it against the 49ers. You saw it again tonight. Like they tried to fight early, held you to a field goal on the opening possession, put together a drive. And then once Jonathan Grenard sacked Caleb Williams, first of all, defensive players, and I've said this before, they can't block. Defensive players really bother me. It's like they're like little kids that you turn loose for recess out on the playground. Just think back to when you were a kid and they told you it was recess and they opened up the door and you ran out to the playground. You ran out there aimlessly, right? Like maybe your plan was, hey, I'm going to go get on the slide, or maybe I'm going to go get on the jungle gym, right? But generally you just ran. Bunch of pent up energy. I'm just going to take off running and I'll figure it out once I get there. This should have been a touchdown, right? The ball's on the ground, and Andrew Van Ginkel sees it. He wants to pick it up, but it gets scooped up by another defender. I can't remember exactly who picked it up. And instead of Van Ginkel blocking Travis Homer, who's the nearest, like he literally ran past this man to start running towards the end zone. Your guy isn't going to make it to the end zone if you don't block somebody. That should have been a scoop and score. Instead, he runs past the nearest Bear defender, and he gets clobbered. Luckily, he doesn't fumble the ball, but it's not a touchdown. That bothers me. I've talked about this before. Defensive players don't block. My goodness. But anyway, Darnold took care of that, took him down the field, found Justin Jefferson, Jettas, got in the end zone. Randy Moss, we love you. It was awesome. It was a great gesture. Everything they did for Randy tonight was awesome. From the start of the game, honoring him at the coin toss, to Jettas giving him some love with the gritty, said this one's for you. We love you. All of it was great. Almost, again, the script tonight was flawless for the Vikings, right? And jump on the Bears early, sack Caleb Williams, most sacked quarterback, rookie-wise in the league. Sack him again, force another fumble, pick up said fumble, score a touchdown 4 plays later, jump out to a 10-0 lead. Bears quit. Exclamation point. Perfect script. They were done after that. And if you really wanted to put him out of their misery, Jettas would have caught that second pass, and he probably would have scored on that play instead of Darnold, throwing an interception a couple plays later on a 4th down, having to throw it up for grabs. But the damage was already done. Once you went up 10-0, they were cooked. The game never felt close. Never felt competitive. The Bears are bad. I mean, what more can I say? Dirty Harry should have had a pick. Caleb, stared it down over the middle of the field. He was all over it, and it went right through his hands. But you did what you needed to do, right? Took care of business, won this thing, 30-12. Put yourself in a great position to win this division. And you just got to take care of business. Seattle's no pushover, but it could be Sam Howell. You should chew him up and spin him out. Pause. Right? That defense should be able to do exactly what you did to Caleb Williams and this Bears offense tonight. If he looks anything like he did in the game on Sunday. Now, granted, he just got thrown into the game. There was no preparation. And he looked the part. He looked like there was no preparation. Looked like he hadn't taken a first-team rep at all this season, which he probably hasn't. So he looked the part. Maybe he'll look different with a week worth of practice, but my guess is you should be able to kick his ass pretty good. Kick his ass, Seabass. You should be able to kick his ass pretty good. Take care of that. And then I think you have 2 division games left, if I'm not mistaken. You got to play the Packers again. That one's at home. And then you got the Lions on the road, if I'm not mistaken. I think those are your final 3 games. Won't be easy. Obviously, family business is never easy, and the Packers are playing well. And, you know, they're not conceding this division yet either. You know, they're still holding out hope that if they run the table, they can somehow win the division themselves, right? That's their hope, is that they beat you, you beat Detroit, Detroit loses to San Francisco, right? They need a lot, which they probably won't get, because I can't see the 49ers beating the Lions. But again, we haven't seen this version of the Lions, this banged up, battered, and bruised version of the Lions that we're going to get the rest of the way. We haven't seen this group. No Aleem McNeil, no Carlton Davis the second. You know, the list goes on and on and on. On defense, they might be playing with a backup player at every position on the field defensively. Like every starter might be on injured reserve right now. And if it's not every starter, it's damn near every starter. 9 out of the 11 defensive starters are probably on injured reserve, if not 10 out of 11 of the starters are injured reserve right now. That's what it feels like. Again, that might be an over-exaggeration, but it's that bad in Detroit. And then you take away Montgomery, which is the Knuckles of the Sonic and Knuckles duo. And so now we're just left with Knuckles, or excuse me, Sonic. Very capable, but it's not the same, right? Very capable, though. The rest of the offense is still there. So they're still capable on that side of the football. So don't get it twisted. But do you really trust Jared Goff? And I get it. He just threw 5 touchdown passes. So, like, but do you really trust him in a shootout consistently? Like, he can win 1 or 2 shootouts. Like, do you consistently trust Jared Goff to win shootouts? Because I don't. You know? So, not every team has Josh Allen, I'm aware. But I'm not saying, I'm just saying. I like where you sit if you're Minnesota. And you got a realistic shot of winning that division. I'll just say that. Took care of business tonight, improved to 12-2, tied for first place in the division, got a big one on the road at Seattle. Then you come home for Green Bay, then you go on the road once more against Detroit. You can win this division. Everything you work for this season is right in front of you. Maybe you can right the wrong that was 2017. You know what you'll probably need to do it? Home field advantage. Again, I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, Bears are awful. And I guess at this point, you just try to get the highest draft pick you can get. I wish I could tell you what exactly you should be after, but maybe just the best football player you can get. There's a lot of bad in Chicago right now, to the point where, you know, what's crazy is that they're so far removed from the hype of Hard Knocks. You forget that they were even on it. They're so bad right now. And we talked about how Caleb Williams was set up for success. It's one of the best teams we've seen a rookie quarterback be inserted into in a very long time, if ever, right? That's the type of shit we were talking. I mean, look at what they've done for him. Look at the cabinet. It's completely full. You got DJ Moore. You added Keenan Allen. You draft Rome Odunze. You've been drafting offensive linemen, it feels like, for the last 3-4 years. You know, the kid from Tennessee, you know, the big kid from what was it, Oklahoma State? Oh, I think it was Oklahoma State. And you've added pieces here and there via free agency on the offensive line. Cole Kmet at tight end. You add DeAndre Swift in the offseason at running back. I mean, you're loaded, right? Defense was playing at a high level at the end of the season, which is why Eberflus didn't get fired in the first place. Wow. Well, you look at that. This team's ready to win right now. Velus Jones is a return man. Man, this team is strapped. Or was it? Montez Sweat turned back into a pumpkin, which is why we didn't give him the money. I wasn't mad at him for getting traded and getting the money. He was salty. He didn't want to get traded. But I was like, bro, you're not worth $100 million. I'm sorry. You're not. You're a good football player. Nothing special, though, bro. It's 4.5 sacks. We got duped once in the sack department by a player that was currently on our team right now. We weren't going to do it a second time. Let somebody else pick up the bill. Haven't heard anything from any of the linebackers. Nothing. I was a massive fan of Tremaine Edmonds. I still don't think he's being utilized correctly, but at this point, he is what he is. Really haven't heard much from him either. How about TJ Edwards? These were investments that were made on that defense a couple of years ago in free agency. Nothing. Jalen Johnson is a really good corner, but when he sees, to me, some of the better receivers and teams that aren't afraid to challenge him, I think he still struggles. It could be me, and I could be wrong about that, but that's just the way I feel. The secondary is young, it's talented, but it's not one that you can't go after. And they've gotten progressively worse as the season is worn on. So there's not a lot to be enthusiastic about, but I only bring all of that up to say that we were excited about this team 8 weeks ago before the Commanders sunk their teeth into them. They were 4-2 before they lost 8 straight to get to 4-10. So if you get the right coach, maybe it's not as bad as it seems, I guess. You get the right coaches in there, and maybe this whole situation is salvageable, and it's not as bad as it looks from the outside looking in. I'm not a Bears fan, so I can't tell you all the things that ill this team. It looks bad, right? But I digress. You're 4-10. Season's done. Just play out the string. Don't get Caleb Williams killed, and try again next year, right? Get to the second of the 2 games. You start with the Atlanta Falcons. They get the win, 15-9. That one was a struggle. You know what it felt like? To be honest with you. Watching this thing at the very beginning, I said, because I had talked to Boss about this game, and he told me he picked the Raiders to win. And I told him, I said, the Raiders are running the play. There's no way they're winning the game. Antonio Pierce wants to win so bad, but it's counterproductive. Winning a game is counterproductive. You can't convince him of that. He wants to win. But if he knew what was good for him, he'd just keep losing. Keep your head down. Keep doing what you're doing. That's the only way you're going to get out of this. Winning a game would be the worst thing you could do. And he said, the Falcons are that bad, they're going to lose to the Raiders. And I'm like, nah, not happening. He wasn't that far off. Okay. God, they stink. But this game felt like Commanders v. Cowboys. I'm watching the way that this thing started. It starts with a fumble on the first possession. Falcons have great field position. What do they do with it? Nothing. Don't even get a field goal attempt off. Go backwards. They block a punt on the next possession. Great field position again. And I said to myself, if they come away with nothing more than a field goal here, they might lose this game. I said, because then it'll really be like the Commanders-Cowboys game, because they're getting all of this great field position and they're getting nothing out of it. And eventually the Raiders are going to say, okay, you don't want to win? Fine. I'll do it. Somebody's got to do it. But when he hit Drake London on that double move and he walked in for the score, I said, okay, they're going to win the game, because the Raiders weren't going to score a lot of points tonight. It was going to take some kind of big play, a turnover, and Kirk is capable, right? I said, as long as Kirk doesn't fumble and have it scooped up and run for a touchdown or throw a pick six, they're going to win the game. Or some kind of catastrophe, somebody fumbles and the Raiders run it, pick it up and run for a touchdown or something. As long as something like that doesn't happen, they're going to win the game. Raiders, the Falcons are going to win the game, because the Raiders aren't going to do but so much with Desmond Ridder at quarterback. And it's not like he was awful, but he's Desmond Ridder. I mean, it's only so much he can do. So, it was ugly. And the Falcons did their best to not put the Raiders away. This thing is 15-3. It feels over. And then it wasn't. And then you get a touchdown, and somehow the Raiders get the ball back, and you're like, wait a minute. What are we doing right now? Do they actually, what are we doing right now? Why do they have the ball with they weren't going to score, but you're like, it's 4th and whatever, and he checks it down to Abdullah, and he gets the first down, and he runs out of bounds, and you're like, interesting. And you look, and it's like 30 seconds left, and you're like, And then he hits Jacoby Myers, and they run up and they spike it, and it's 10 seconds left, and you see they're at like the 30-yard line, and you go, And then I start thinking to myself, this may actually be the Desmond Ridder revenge game. And I'm going to tell you what, that first rollout that he heaved into the end zone with 2 seconds left, that shit was perfect. That's how you complete a Hail Mary. Put some air on it, gave his guys a chance. It just was incomplete, but he gave him a chance to get down there. That had a chance. If he would have put a little bit more air on it, a little bit more trajectory, that one had a shot. The second one, he didn't give him enough time to get down there. He needed to scramble around, buy more time, and he didn't do that. So they got away, did the Falcons. And Kirk Cousins is so ass. I mean, what's going to ultimately save them? They won't lose any of these games. What it's going to come down to is the Commanders, first and foremost, need to beat the Eagles. Like, the goal is to win every single game down the stretch, and the biggest game of their season is going to be the Falcons game, though, when it's all said and done, because the Falcons shouldn't lose, but I could see them losing to Carolina in week, and the Panthers aren't in the same position as the Giants and the, Raiders are, where those two teams can't afford to win because they're getting a quarterback. The Panthers don't need a quarterback. So they don't give a shit about winning a game. They'll beat the Falcons' ass in week 18 and not think twice about it. Now, That game is in Atlanta. Atlanta has been one of the worst home teams all season long. So that doesn't mean a damn thing. They've actually been better on the road than they've been at home this season. They have more wins on the road this season than they do at home. So the fact that they're playing at home in week 18 versus the Carolina Panthers is as dangerous a game as it gets for them. Because the Panthers don't give a shit. They looking to get somebody. And the Falcons look like the perfect mark. However, it shouldn't even come to that. Because if you're the Commanders, and again, I'm not skipping over it. The Eagles are the most important game on the schedule because that's the next one up. That's the most important fight because that's the one we're in. And we want to win that game. We got revenge on the brain. So that's the one that we got circled on the calendar right now. But ultimately, if you beat Philadelphia, you just got to win one of your final two games. You beat Atlanta, and you've pretty much clinched. I've already told you that 10 is the magic number. And if you get to 10, and as long as one of those wins is against Atlanta, you're pretty much Gucci. But the goal is to get more than 10. The goal is to get to 11. That's the ultimate goal. Because we streak breakers. We breaking all types of streaks this year, and we ain't won more than 10 games since 1991, and that shit has to come to an end. I'm sick and tired of talking about it. And I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of talking about that shit. So 11 is the number that we have to get to. But 10 is the magic number. But I'm looking past 10. I really want 12. But I'll take 11. That's the one we got to get to. Boy, this team is ass. But as I said at the top, and what's going to ultimately save them, if they make it out of this thing alive, is they won a game. And sometimes the pressure of not winning, that shit mounts and it mounts. And until you win, it don't stop. That's what happened to the Bears. One loss turned into 2 losses, turned into 3 losses, turned into 4 losses, and you looked up and they were in a damn hole that they dug themselves. And every game that they tried harder, they dug deeper. They just needed one win. And the schedule gods offered them up an opportunity to end the misery. They said, we giving you the Patriots at home. If you can't win this game, you're cooked. You're done for the season. And they went home, scored 3 whole points, and lost 19-3 to the Patriots. And the football guy said, I threw you a lifeline, bro. I threw you a life raft. I threw you a buoy. You dead. You dead. And if the Falcons couldn't win tonight, you dead. Like, I gave you an opportunity. It wasn't pretty, but they took advantage of said opportunity. They get the win. Now you can breathe, right? Now you can breathe again, breathe again. Now you can exhale, monkey off your back. Kirk Cousins had thrown 8 straight interceptions, no touchdown passes. He ended that on that second drive when he threw the touchdown pass. Now he can breathe again. He can exhale. And now I expect them against the Giants next week to go off, score 30 plus, right? Now, if they let the Giants push them to the limit like they did the Raiders tonight, they're a lost cause. This was supposed to be the game that gave them the confidence that, hey, let's just go out and play ball. Like, hey, what do we got to lose? Everything. But let's just go out and play ball, man. Let's just go out and play ball. Because Tampa Bay, they're not winning that division. They needed Tampa Bay to lose to the Chargers. They needed Tampa Bay to lose to the Chargers. They're not coming back and winning the division. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Dallas could bless the Buccaneers. I don't see that happening. Who knows? Maybe the division isn't over. for them. But it feels like it. They got to finish one game better than Tampa, and I don't see that happening. Or they just got to finish tied, with Tampa. And I don't see that happening. I don't think Tampa's losing another game the rest of the way. But we'll see. I thought the one that Tampa could lose was the Chargers, but they didn't lose their game. So anyway, I digress. Let's get a word from one of our sponsors. Then we'll come back on the other side, get to the comment section, see what y'all talking about. Let's go Inside the Odds, powered by BetUS.
Inside the Odds.
Looking for a new book? BetUS has you covered. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get up to 10% back on your net losses twice a year as long as you've been active within the last 6 months. And here's the kicker. For new users, use the promo code YouTube150 to get you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. Remember, bet responsibly. Bet only what you can afford to lose, and do not chase your losses. It is dangerous. All right? So, these were your 2 games. Vikings were 7-point favorites. Obviously, they covered that, winning this game by 18 points. The total in the game, the over-under total was 43.5, according to BetUS. All the numbers you see in front of you are from the BetUS website. The total ended up being 42. So they knew something, 30-12, but they were just under the total. I think I had, I didn't do points for this game. I did points for the second game. And I think the point total I went with was either 34 or 38, which neither were right. For the second game. The Falcons were 5.5-point favorites. And what'd they win by? What was the score in that game? Was it 15-9? Right? And so they literally, I always tell you, buy the half point, right? Get it to 6. And look at that. It would have hit 6 right on the head. So BetUS knew something, right? The book had it perfectly mapped out for you, essentially. As the Falcons were 5.5-point favorites, they won the game by 6. So there's that. They had the over-under total at 44.5. That was a bit aggressive. I would have definitely taken the under there. I told you I either had 38 or 34 as my point total in this game. And it didn't even come remotely close to that, right? Ended up being 15-9, so it's 24 points total in the game. So a bit aggressive there on the over-under. But yeah. They were pretty good with the totals, though. The spreads were, at least the spread in that game was spot on, and the over-under in the Bears game was damn near spot on as well. So these totals weren't that far off. That is for sure. So let's get to some intriguing stuff now, the real juicy stuff. So we talked about this yesterday. These were the odds going into yesterday. Now, these are going to be updated, obviously, with all the injuries that the Lions have, with the Lions losing, and then the Vikings winning. It's going to look a lot different. Now, I still think the Lions are going to be the favorites, right? But that minus 1,000 is going to take a massive hit with all the injury news and with the Lions losing a game and the Vikings winning a game. I surmise that the next time I show you this, right, which will be next weekend, and things are going to get interesting with the scheduling here. You're going to get some Christmas games coming up. We're going to start seeing games on Saturday, so forth and so forth. So things are about to heat up. You know what time of the year it is when we start seeing NFL games being played on Saturdays. We got Ravens Steelers this Saturday coming up. So shit's about to get real. But the next time we are talking about the NFC North odds, I surmise they're going to look something like this. The Lions are going to be minus 300. The Vikings are going to be at plus 225, 250, right? But the Lions will still be the prohibitive favorites, but that number is going to take a massive hit. I think it's going to be minus 300, and you're going to see the Vikings at somewhere in that plus 275, 250, 225 range. So that gap will be closed significantly. And the Packers, they'll probably be plus 20,000 and not 25. Like, they still are a long shot to win the division. They're not going to win the division. But if you go all the way to the bottom, NFC South, obviously just a two-team race. Falcons went into the weekend at plus 375, Buccaneers at minus 550. With the Bucs taking care of business. That was a game that a lot of people thought they could lose. They went in and put up a 40 spot. And the Falcons looking as bad as they did tonight, I wouldn't be shocked if the gap widens there and the Bucs are, next time we look at this thing, the Bucs are minus 800 and the Falcons are still at plus 375. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if it doesn't widen just slightly in the favor of the Bucs. Just feels like the Bucs are going to win that division now. But again, all it takes is one, right? If I'm not mistaken, the Bucs are 8-6. Falcons are now 7-7. Falcons win next week against the Giants. Bucs lose next week against the Cowboys. And just like that, the Falcons are back in first place. So, stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. So, at the end of the day, feels like this is the Bucs division to lose. So that's what I see happening. But we'll see what happens. Ultimately, this is when shit gets real, right? All of the mistakes you've made throughout the course of the year, all of the games you could have or should have won that you didn't. This is where the shit can come back to haunt you if you don't take care of business now. You can erase all of your wrongs. You can right all of your wrongs by winning this time of the year. So everything that all these teams want is right in front of them. Right in front of them. Rams, Seahawks, division right in front of them. What you going to do, right? Obviously, the Geno Smith injury may have a lot to say about the outcome of that whole division. Lions, Vikings, Packers, maybe not necessarily the Packers, but Vikings and Lions in particular, everything you want is right in front of you. You want that number one seed? Go get it. You want to win the division? Go get it. Got to win some games, right? Got to win some games, but it's all there. Same can be said for the Falcons and the Bucs. Falcons, you did your work early. You swept these Bucs. You did your work early. You can reap the benefits of that by just winning out. You got the easiest schedule. Sans for the Commanders, you got the easiest remaining schedule of any team in the league. 3 out of your final 4 games, including the one tonight, are against teams that have 3 or less wins on the season. Just take care of business, man. See what they do. We'll see what they do. So, give a quick shout out to BetUS for providing us with all of those odds that you just saw. So, with that said, let's get to the comment section. Before we do that, just want to make everybody aware out there of how this process works. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent and time permits. Can't promise you that time will permit, as we have roughly 30 minutes or so, give or take. Just depends on how the comments go. But if you want to ensure that your comment is read, super chats are the way to get that done. You jump straight to the front of the line and you are ensured that your comment will be read and reacted to on the air. But use the hashtag LouieTLive and we may be able to get to your comment. before we get out of here. So start the night off with Video Channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Video Channel writes, Lou, what's going on, Video Channel? What is Caleb's biggest issue right now? For me, watching him this season and watching every game he's played this season, his biggest issue is that it's taken him the entire season, and at times it still doesn't feel like he fully grasps the concept of this is not college. You cannot hold on to the football forever waiting for someone to get open. You have to do something, whether that's run, get rid of it, check it down, whatever the case may be, go through your progressions faster. But he just stands in the pocket entirely too long. And I think another fatal flaw of his is that I think he might put too much trust in an inferior offensive line. Like, you can't stand back there as if these guys are going to protect you. Like Kirk Cousins, he stands back there because he has no other recourse, right? He has no other form of getting rid of the football. Like, where is he going to go? What is he going to do? He can't run. So Kirk has no choice but to stand back there and trust that offensive line that they're going to protect him because he ain't running nowhere. Well, Caleb's legs work and they're dynamic. And so he should be moving a lot sooner, but he's staying in the pocket entirely too long. He's taking too many sacks. A lot of these sacks are on him from the standpoint of, hey, you got to make up your mind, bro. Like, for instance, the sack tonight, the forced fumble, that wasn't on him, right? He gets to the top of his drop. I don't even know if the left tackle touched Jonathan Grenard. Just straight up beat like a drum off the snap, right? But he never felt that rusher, right? That's blindside pressure. Some dudes have an innate feel like, oh, shit, somebody's coming. I got to get out of here. He never felt that pressure. It was immediate, though. So, but that's not the first time that that's happened to him. And I know you can't drop back assuming that I'm going to get to the top of my drop and I'm going to get hit. You can't play the position like that. You can't play scared. But he will stand back there for 3-4 seconds just chilling like ain't shit going to happen to him. And I remember me and Boss were watching the Thanksgiving game against the Lions, and he's like, my boss was screaming the whole time, this dude is a clown. He don't get rid of the damn ball. He take too many damn sacks. And we watching the game. He says, see? And he's standing back there, and I'm like, yeah, he got to get rid of the ball. And that's his Achilles heel right now, is in college, he can stand back there all day. He can make 6 guys miss, run in a circle, and then throw a touchdown pass or throw some electrifying, play because he's playing Fresno State. That ain't happening in the NFL. And in his mind, he told himself, I'm Patrick Mahomes. And he can do Patrick Mahomes-esque shit, but you ain't Patrick Mahomes, bro. And I think the sooner he realizes I got to do something with the ball, whether it's me running and being a playmaker or me getting out and extending to make something happen or just getting rid of the football. But you can't stand back there. I think that's his biggest issue is he's taking too many sacks. And as we saw with Sam Howell last year, when you take sacks, it kills drives. And taking sacks kills confidence. Because eventually they're going to start beating into your head, hey, just get rid of it. And when you start telling a quarterback to not be who they are in pursuit of avoiding sacks, they lose the essence of what made them who they are. We saw that with Sam Howell last year, and you don't ever want Caleb Williams to stop being Caleb Williams. You want him to be a playmaker. You just want him to make whatever decision he's going to make sooner. That's it. Just speed up the process. That's it. You know what else would help? Protecting him. Like, he shouldn't be under siege the way that he's been this season. Like, all of the sacks aren't on him, as we saw tonight. Like, all of those sacks aren't on him. But I'd say it's a 50-50 split between sacks that he's taken. And just like me and my guy Derek B talk about, we talk about this with the Commanders' offensive line. For as many sacks that are on Jaden this year, because either he's held on to it too long or he's run out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage. Think about how many sacks he's avoided this season that were probably on the offensive line because they got beat and he out-leveraged the defender, stiff-armed them, and got to the outside, right? Or slipped through a sack or jumped out of a sack. Think about how many sacks that didn't happen because he's Jaden Daniels. Same could be said with Caleb Williams. Think about how many sacks could have happened if he didn't have the ability to extend and escape. So it goes both ways. But long-winded answer, I know. So let me sum it up by saying he's got to get rid of the ball quicker. He's got to make a faster decision. Whether it's to run, to extend, go through his progressions, check it down, but he's got to make a faster decision. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, did Troy really blame our Hail Mary win over Bears for their downfall? I mean, he might not be wrong, but damn, laughing my ass off. No, he did, and he's correct. What did I tell you in the moment when it happened? What did I tell you the football gods told me? I literally reenacted the conversation I had with the football gods. Right after it happened, we had this conversation. And I asked the football gods, why are you allowing this to happen? You told me you had me. He said, bro, what did you want? You told me you wanted the ultimate revenge, right? I said, yeah. He said, well, what do you think I'm doing? If you would have just beaten them in a normal fashion, 23-10, they could rebound. They could bounce back from that. It's not what you asked me for. You said you wanted them terminated permanently this season. Did you not? I was like, well, I didn't use those words, but that'd be fine. He's like, well, this is the ultimate heartbreak, the ultimate gut punch. There's no coming back from this. The Washington walk-off, a.k.a. Bear Trap, a.k.a. Noah's Ark, is a death sentence for the Bears. This is it. You can't lose a game in more excruciating fashion than this. I was like, well, when you put it that way, go ahead and do your thing. I appreciate you. And what did we see after that? We saw a team that could never get off the canvas after that knockout blow. They could never get up off the canvas. They were like Mike Tyson searching for his mouthpiece after he got knocked down and ultimately out by Buster Douglas, right? Instead of getting up and trying to beat the count, he's trying to find his mouthpiece to put the shit back in his mouth. That's what happened to the Bears after the Bear Trap. Yeah, we ended their season. And as a Commanders fan, tell me that you don't take solace knowing we did that. That's just a look. At the end of the day, we weren't looking to match their petty, even though we were very petty with them. They deserved it. But we got bigger fish to fry. We took care of them back in October, right? That was at around Halloween, right? Like, that's a long time ago. We done had a 3-game losing streak, them bounce back, then 1-2 straight, and trying to finish out the season on a win streak since that happened. We done had 2 different lives since then. But yes, that did happen. That's a real thing. Calvin Creme de la Creme. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Calvin Creme de la Creme, love the name. Writes, can't believe I stayed up to watch this crap, Lou. I can't believe you did either. I'd love to try to talk you into, hey, it wasn't that bad. I can't believe you did either. This Atlanta team is so unlikable. I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk gets cut or retires. Either way, no way in hell Atlanta stays with him another year. I don't know the specifics of that contract, but my guess is they don't have an exit ramp after year one of that contract. That's my guess. Maybe there's an exit ramp after year two. But generally, you don't sign guys to, I think he signed a 4-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. You don't sign guys to 4-year contracts with an exit ramp after year one. Like, doesn't make a lot of sense for the guy signing it. So my guess is there's no way out of that contract until probably after 2025, so 2026. So they're probably stuck with Kirk for one more year. Now, look, they don't have to start him because we've seen over the last 2 years, particularly with Russell Wilson, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, right? And I think the Browns are proof that when you got a gun to your head, you'll do strange things, because if anybody should be looking to move on from a quarterback, it's the Browns. But they made such an investment in Deshaun Watson that they're never going to get their return on their investment at this point. You might as well just move on, which is why if the Browns had not won games that they had no business winning this season against the Ravens and the Steelers, they would be in a position to get themselves a quarterback. And I would have loved to have seen what they would have done had they ended up with the number 2 pick in the draft, right? I would have loved to have seen what decision they would have made, because ain't no way in hell you telling me I got a chance to draft a quarterback and I'm just going to be like, nah, we got Deshaun Watson, we good. Or nah, we got DTR, we good. Hell no. You got a chance to get a franchise quarterback because Deshaun Watson ain't it. You're going to draft it. So it would have been fun to see them in that situation, but clearly they're not going to end up there. So they probably are. We heard reports that season ticket holders are threatening to end their season ticket subscriptions if Deshaun Watson is brought back as a quarterback next year. So fans are starting to try to stand up for a cause in Cleveland. We'll see how the organization handles that situation. But Kirk, to me, has another year. But I'll say this: it wouldn't shock me if he finishes up playing the way that he's been playing the last month, which is god awful. I think he's going to snap out of it first and foremost. But if he does it, I think you have to go to camp next year with an actual quarterback competition. I think that's the only thing that would make sense. You can't just now, and I'll also say this, much like Aaron Rodgers, you got to give these quarterbacks coming off of major surgery that are of a certain age, you got to give them a little grace. Kirk Cousins is 34 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Coming off of major surgery, he's not going to be himself yet. He can't move. He probably will be able to move a lot better next year, for what it's worth. Say with Aaron Rodgers, right? Coming off of major surgery, Aaron Rodgers damn near 40, if he's not already 40. No, Rodgers is probably 40 already. And so you got to assume he'll be more mobile next year, a year fully removed from surgery. So maybe Kirk looks better next year. Maybe Rodgers looks better next year. But to assume that these 30-somethings, and in the case of Rodgers, 40-somethings, can just bounce back from major surgery, that's insane to think. And so the Falcons made an investment. They were smart enough this time around to get the quarterback while they were there, right? While the opportunity presented itself. People ain't laughing now, are they? We were all pointing and looking at them and saying, What an idiot. They don't look like idiots now, do they? But at some point, Penix is going to get an opportunity, and maybe next year. You might be right about Kirk. I just think Kirk is going to get one more year. And if it doesn't work next year, then I think they're going to be ready to move on to Penix after that. There's no rush. They got Penix for 5 years. They pick up his rookie, his 5th-year option. So they don't have to do anything, right now. It's not until you going into that 3rd season where you really like, all right, we got to make a decision. Because then you need to see him enough to where you feel like, hey, we need to pick up this 5th-year option, or we don't need to pick it up. So year 3 is that pivotal year. So they're not in a rush. So see what happens. LT, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. LT writes, glad you said no one fear Philly. We here for real now, belt to ass. Nobody fears the Eagles. You act like that's a news flash or something. Nobody fears the Eagles. But y'all win football games. Like I've always said this. Fear is not a prerequisite to getting your ass whooped. You don't have to be scared to get your ass beat. But nobody's afraid of the Eagles. There isn't a scary team in the NFL right now. I wouldn't want to play the Buffalo Bills. But, I mean, their defense isn't exactly murderers out here. I mean, they gave up 42 this week and 44 the week before. So I wouldn't exactly call their defense dynamic or dangerous. But Josh Allen is all of that. And then some. But you don't have Josh Allen at quarterback. Why would I be afraid of you? You got Saquon Barkley. He's pretty damn dangerous and dynamic. But, yeah, there's nothing scary about the Philadelphia Eagles. We were winning against them 3 weeks ago in the 4th quarter. We feel like we can beat them. So we'll get another shot. That's the good thing. We get another shot. We may get 2. We may get 2 when it's all said and done. We'll see. We'll see how everything plays itself out, right? I'm not worried about the second shot right now, or the third one, rather, if that one comes. I'm worried about the second one. Swaggy P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Swaggy P writes, Falcons were really playing scared and trying to lose and not trying to lose. That's what happens when you are struggling the way that they've been struggling, is you start to play tight, you start to press. It's the way we played against Dallas, right? The exact same way we played against Dallas. We had lost 2 games in a row. It was the first time we had seen real adversity, in the season. And everybody told us we were supposed to beat Dallas. We were 10-point favorites, and we came out and we played tight. We coached not to lose. Like, it's the same thing we did against the Giants back in 2022. And remember, I said after that game, the Giants came into Washington playing to win. They were going for it on 4th downs. They were aggressive. And we were punting on 4th and 4 from the Giants' 43-yard line. We were punting. Meanwhile, they were in our territory on 4th and 7, and they were going for it. And they converted. And they came in with the mindset of, let's go win this game. Let's go win a playoff spot. And we were playing not to lose a playoff spot. Let's not lose the game. And playing not to lose is how you lose. It's the same thing when teams play prevent defense. Prevent defense is supposed to prevent teams from getting the deep ball, but it prevents you from playing competent defense. You're still giving up chunks. It's just not over your head. It's just in front of your face now, right? Because you're playing not to lose instead of playing to win. The entire game, you've played to win, and you've shut this team down and you've put yourself in a position to win the game. And then now the game's on the line. And instead of you doing the thing that got you here, you play prevent defense. You play not to lose instead of playing to win. I'll never understand that philosophy or that mindset. Worst case scenario is I'm going to play too high, right? Because you should be running the ball, so I'm going to play too high. But I'm not going to stop being aggressive. I'm not going to stop being who we've been all game long. Now that the game is on the line. That's how you get beat. Because you play with a lack of aggressiveness when you play not to lose. And they definitely played uptight tonight. Because they had every opportunity to blow the Raiders out early with the block kicks. They blocked 2 kicks. 2 kicks. Forced a fumble. Yeah, it was rough. But they won. That's the most important thing. Can't stress that enough. They won the game. They won the game. And sometimes you just need to win one. We'll see if they bounce back next week and really take it to the Giants. Then they got a shot to turn their season around, and it's not all over. But if they struggle against the Giants next week, I don't think they're gonna do it. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I wouldn't mind facing the Birds the 3rd time in the playoffs so their head coach can't talk a player. D-line coach was out of pocket. I love their drama. I'm not worried about playing them a 3rd time. I'm worried about playing them the 2nd time. I saw, like I said, like everybody wants to talk about the Falcons game in week 17. Yeah, it's a big game, but guess what? Ain't no game bigger than the one on the schedule right now. And the next one on the schedule is Philadelphia Eagles in week 16 at home. So that's what I'm more focused on. Because if you want to take the pressure off of that game, win this one. You don't win this one, then the one against the Atlanta Falcons becomes the biggest game of the season because it would literally be the biggest game of the season. You don't win that game, you got a chance to miss the playoffs altogether. But you can avoid all of that by beating Philadelphia. Right here. Hey, listen, somebody got to do it. Might as well be us. All right? They don't call the streak breakers for nothing. Somebody got to do it. If it comes to that, and we do see him a 3rd time, I welcome the challenge, but I can't see that far. I'm so narrow focused on just the next opponent and the next task at hand. And that next task is the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's all I'm concerned with at this point. And they're going to have to do some things. They're going to have to retool some things because more likely than not, we're going to be without Zach Ertz. Probably Jeremy Chin, too, in this game. So they're going to have to retool some things. Let's see. I'll grab 1 or 2 comments and then we'll get out of here. John Wynn says, so you're saying last night one of the NFC East and NFC West teams have to make it to 10 wins to be playoff bound. So, yes, the magic number, you can't make it to the playoffs without winning 10 games, is essentially what I'm saying. If you don't win 10 games, you're not getting it. Nobody's making it to the playoffs on either side of the bracket, I believe, with less than 10 wins. Now, it may be possible on the AFC side to make it to the playoffs without winning 10 games because all of the teams in pursuit are ass. The Colts are a 6-win team. The Dolphins are a 6-win team. The Bengals are a 6-win team. Right now, as it stands, they would all have to win out to get to 10 wins, right? All of them right now, if I'm not mistaken. No. they're all 6-8. None of them can get to 10 wins. So the Chargers are already at 8. They should be able to get to 10, theoretically speaking, winning 2 out of their final 3 games. They should be able to get to 10. But they got Denver this week. They got to win against Denver. Denver's already at 9, right? So more likely than not, everyone's going to have 10 on that side. But even if the Chargers don't get to 10, getting to 9, they should still be fine. They should still be fine. Because those 3 teams behind them aren't going to win out more likely than not. The Colts could win out. But, God, we don't want to see them in the playoffs. We do not need the Indianapolis Colts infiltrating our playoffs. But in the NFC side of the bracket, which is what you asked about, 10 at a bare minimum, you got to have 10 wins. It may take 11, right? I've said that the magic number is 10 because I don't believe a team like Seattle and or the Rams are going to win more than 10 games. The winner of that division is going to win 10 games. That's the way I feel. Seattle's going to lose to Minnesota. And then you should beat the who do you have after that? I think you got somebody in the division. You may not have. I think you already played all your division games except for the Rams in week 18. I don't know who you got, but I think it's somebody you can beat in week 17. And then week 18, you got the Rams. The Rams have the Jets. Then they got the Cardinals, and then they finish up with the Seahawks. So anything could happen, right? They could win out and get to 11 wins. But the likelihood is they're going to end up with 10. But it doesn't matter. Whoever wins that division, that doesn't matter to the wild card. If Washington ends up tied with anybody, not name Atlanta and Tampa, because they lost to Tampa already. And if they finish tied with Atlanta and Atlanta beat them in week 17, then they would lose the tiebreaker there. But anybody short of that, if they finish tied with the Rams or Seattle for the final playoff spot, they win the tiebreaker because of their conference record. They'll have a better conference record. So that's why I've been saying 10 is the magic number. Just get to 10. Like, the reason the Packers are a virtual lock for the playoffs is because they got to 10 wins. Right? They didn't clinch, though, because 11 is a done deal. Right? 11 is a done deal. But 10, you're applying pressure. You get to 10, you're applying pressure because there are a number of teams that might not even make it to 10. And if they do make it to 10, the sooner you get to 10, which is why I keep saying it's the magic number, the sooner you get to 10, the sooner you have a chance to get to 11. Like, if you wait to get to 10 in week 18 in your final game of the season, you probably are putting yourself in a position where you might not make the playoffs. The magic number is 10. Get to that magic number as quickly as possible to give yourself some leeway, some wiggle room. That's essentially what I've been saying. I think the number is 10, but you don't want to leave it to chance. Get to 10 as soon as you can so that 11 is still possible. The goal shouldn't be, hey, just win 10 games. It should be win as many as you can, but get to 10 first. You can't get to 11 unless you get to 10. You can't get to 12 unless you get to 10 first. Get to 10 as fast as possible, and you exponentially increase your chances of making the playoffs. That loss you had last night, huge, because even if you weren't going to win the division, you still had a shot at the wild card. losing last night puts you in a tough spot because had you beaten Green Bay last night, you would have been 9-5. Green Bay would have been 9-5. And all of a sudden, if it came down to the end of the season, because Green Bay still got to play the Minnesota Vikings. So they could lose another game. And if Green Bay had ended the season 10-7 or 11-6, but you beat them, you could have still got in. Well, that's out the window now. Green Bay gone. Your only shot is to win the division. You not getting in as a wild card more likely than not. I mean, theoretically speaking, of course, you win 2 out of your final 3. All Washington has to do is win 1. And y'all got the same record, but Washington wins the tiebreaker over you because they got a better conference record. So, again, your best bet is to win the division now. It's pretty much your only play at this point. But you never know. You never know. Just win games. That's all you can do. Just win games. Win games. Lang Hughes says, LOL, absolutely cannot lose to this version of Kirk. Man is a sitting duck and can't throw. Facts. But you know, if I don't really want to talk about the Falcons, but this is what I'll say. The reason why they scared the shit out of me is because they can run the football. And if there's a running back that should scare the daylights out of you as a Commanders fan, it's Bijan Robinson. I ain't afraid of Tyler Algier because even if he breaks some shit, he ain't going nowhere. Bijan is the type of dude that gives us fits because we will hold Bijan down for 3 quarters, just like we did Saquon, just like we did DeAndre Swift. And then we'll get to the 4th quarter, and then that explosiveness will take over. And all it takes is one run where you think you got his ass bottled up. He cut that bitch back, step in the ground again, cut it back again, and next thing you know, it's 57 down the sideline for a touchdown. That's why I'm scared of the Falcons. Because he can single-handedly beat us without Kirk Cousins doing much of anything. You neutralize him and you force Kirk to beat you. Right now, it don't seem like that's possible. But you let him get off, you lose the game just off the strength of not being able to stop the run. So that's my biggest fear. But I ain't worried about them right now. I'm worried about the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the team I'm worried about right now. But I hear what you're saying about Kirk. I get it. I totally get it. Rocky D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Rocky writes, Washington eliminated the Bears. Now they can shut up. I mean, they hadn't been talking in a long time. I ain't heard from a Bears fan since the Bear Trap. I ain't heard from a single Bear fan. I ain't seen them on my timeline. None of that shit. It all went away. The bitching about winning the Pepsi Rookie of the Week, all that shit went to sleep when we had the Washington walk-off. So they've been defeated a long time ago. No pun intended, but they've been smelling defeat in the air. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Monday Night Football Overtime. Doubleheader. Ugh, that's nasty. This was a nasty doubleheader, boy. This is one of those doubleheaders only a fan could love, right? You either had to be a massive NFL fan like myself, and many of you out there are the same way, because this is what you got to understand. Whether you want this shit or you don't want it, soon, it ain't going to be available. So you better consume as much of this shit as you can, because soon, you're going to have to watch one of these USFL, UFL bullshits if you want some tackle football. Soon, ain't gonna be no more of this. So whether you like it or you don't like it, if it's on, you better consume it. Okay? Because you're gonna be jonesing for this shit in about a month from now. But this was nasty work. You either had to be a fan of one of these 4 teams or just a massive NFL fiend like myself that'll eject any product into my veins. Because this was bad. Really bad. Vikings get the win, 30-12, improved to 12-2 on the season. They tied the Detroit Lions for first place in the NFC North. And I mean, it's feeling like we got 2 options in week 18 for the final game of the season. I prefer win and go home, preferably, which would be Seattle and the Rams. But if the number 1 seed is on the line between the Vikings and the Lions in week 18, how could you turn that down? One team is getting a first round bye and home field throughout, and the other team is going to be in wild card weekend playing against the winner of the NFC West, more likely than not. Because I think Tampa's going to get to the 3 seed. That'd be a hard game to turn down. But Bears are 4-10. I'd be shocked if they won another game. I don't know what their remaining schedule looks like. They just don't feel like a team that's going to win another game this season. From 4-2 to 4-13, that's where it feels like they're heading. And Thomas Brown doesn't feel like the answer as the interim head coach. So, meanwhile, in the second game, Falcons snapped their losing streak, beat the Vegas Raiders 15-9. Very uninspiring game by the Falcons, but a win's a win's a win in the National Football League. That's the name of the game. Just find a way to win. They did. They improved to 7-7. Now they're just 1 game back of first place in their division. Remember, all they have to do is finish tied at the end of the season with Tampa, and they will win the NFC South. So they climb back into that race. And here's what I expect to happen. I expect them to play much better next week against the Giants. If that doesn't happen, if they look like a version of this next week, they're cooked. They're cooked. But for the Raiders, that's called running the play. A little scary, probably a little too close for the comfort of Raiders fans everywhere. But that's called running the play. All right. That's called running the play. 2-12, in position to get one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the draft. The prize of this draft is Shedeur Sanders. He wants to be a Raider. They want him to be a Raider. Keep doing what you're doing, and he'll be a Raider. Keep doing what you're doing, and he will be a Raider. So, give a quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. If you're looking for a new book, BetUS has you covered. Use the promo code YouTube150 to get you 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% sign-up bonus on your first 2 deposit or your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. Get this super chat here before we skedaddle. Rocky D. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, when is the next Super Friends? I don't know. I wish I could tell you. It's supposed to be this week, but we haven't really discussed anything, to be honest with you. So I can't tell you. Wish I had a definitive answer for you, but I don't. So should be this week, but I'm not pressed. I'll tell you that much. I'm not pressed. So we'll see. You asked me what I'm looking at. I got multiple screens in front of me. You do know that, right? I have a setup. So I have 3 screens in front of me. So the camera is right here. I got a screen here, and a screen right here. So when I'm looking this way, I'm looking at the screen. Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And we will reconvene tomorrow. Louie T Network Podcast. We'll talk about week number 15 in all of its splendor and set the scene for this week. Things are getting real. Like, we got some big ones coming up. Some family business, a lot of family business to attend to. Ravens, Steelers. I think the Ravens are out for revenge. And I think they're going to get it. Commanders, Eagles. Commanders are out for revenge. And I think they're going to get it. Chargers and Broncos. We'll see. Broncos out for revenge. I don't know if they're going to get it or not. They might with the way the Chargers are playing, but we'll see. A lot of family business, though. A lot of intriguing matchups. We'll talk about some of those a little bit later on in the week, though. Y'all enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you guys next time. God bless and good night.